Hello, Buffs. Today we're going to do some notes on conditionals, converses, inverses, and contrapositives. We're going to start with our conditional statement. And if you remember from yesterday, a conditional statement is an if-then statement. We have a hypothesis and a conclusion. In this conditional statement, if a clown is tall, then he has big feet. Let's form the converse by switching the hypothesis and the conclusion. So the converse, we start with the conclusion. If he has big feet, then a clown is tall. The inverse is formed by inserting the word not into the hypothesis and the conclusion. So we're going to have the word not twice. We go back to the conditional. If a clown is not tall, then a clown, or let's see if I can make that sound better, then he does not have big feet. All right, so I inserted the word not in both the the hypothesis and the conclusion. Now the contrapositive is formed by inserting the word not and switching the hypothesis and conclusion. So I usually start with the converse and then I negate it. So I'm going to start with this sentence and I just will negate both parts. If he does not have big feet, then a clown is not tall. So the converse, we switch. The inverse, we negate. Contrapositive, we switch and negate. I always think of contrapositive as two separate words, so I know I need to do two separate things. Okay, so now let's practice. Here's our conditional statement. If an animal is a goose, then it has a beak. So I'm going to start identifying my hypothesis and my conclusion. So I know my converse, I need to switch. My inverse, I negate. My contrapositive, switch and negate. So take a minute, see if you can write it out, pause the video, and then come back. Okay, let's do this. If it has a beak, then an animal is a goose. The inverse, we negate the conditional. If an animal is not a goose, then it does not have a beak. And contrapositive, let's start with the converse and negate it. If it does not have a beak, then the animal is not a goose. So what do you think about the truth value? Let's go back to the conditional statement. If an animal is a goose, then it has a beak. That's true. The converse, if it has a beak, then an animal is a goose. That's false. There's lots of birds that have beaks, but they are not gooses or geese. Now the inverse, if an animal is not a goose, then it does not have a beak. Well, that one is also false because we can talk about lots of other birds that have beaks. So if an animal is not a goose, for example, penguin has a beak, then it does not have a beak. Well, no, that's false because a penguin does have a beak. And the contrapositive, if it does not have a beak, let's say it's a dog. Dogs don't have beaks. Then the animal is not a goose. What do you think? Let's take a look at number 2. If the temperature is 25 degrees Fahrenheit, then it's below freezing. Well, that's true. Let's go ahead and identify the hypothesis and the conclusion. And for the converse, let's switch. If it is below freezing, then the temperature is 25 degrees. False. What if it's 12 degrees? There's lots of degrees that are below freezing that aren't 25. Okay, for the inverse, we're going to negate. Go back to the conditional and add not. If the temperature is not 25 degrees, then it is not below freezing. Again, there are lots of degrees that are below freezing. It doesn't have to be 25 degrees. And the contrapositive, go back to the converse and negate it. If it is not below freezing, then the temperature is not 25 degrees. So what do you think about that one?